Okay, so our assignment is to create a color wheel, and we definitely need to start understanding the differences between primary, secondary, tertiary, and quaternary colors. So, we're going to talk about some keywords that I'm probably going to throw out there as we talk about color. Hue is a color. It's the color, the gradation of color, or the attribute of colors that permits them to be classified as red, yellow, green, blue, or any intermediate between any contiguous pair of these colors. So hue essentially just means color. So you can say, my favorite hue is green or greenish blue or anything like that. So hue just means color. Saturation is something that you probably heard about. Maybe if you've ever edited a photo on your phone, is also known as chroma. This is the intensity of a color. So the chroma of a color or the saturation can talk about how subtle a color is versus how vibrant it is. And the value, as we know, um, doing our gray scale swatches, the value is how light or dark a color is relating to black and white. And then lastly, the color wheel is a visual representation of colors arranged according to their chromatic relationship. So you probably already are aware of some of this very rudimentary information. Although it's kind of like studying colors is kind of like riding a bike. We learned a lot about it in elementary school. We may have forgot some of the basics along the way, but after you do this color wheel, it'll be quite informative and you'll definitely recognize it from probably your former years in education. So primary colors are complementary colors. So primary colors are made up of red, blue, and yellow. And the complements to red is green. So one of the first primary colors being red, its complement is a secondary color, which is green. I just wanted to show you how complementary colors are often found for holidays. They're used often for holidays because they look so good together. So this is primary red with its complementary secondary color green, which is used for the Christmas holiday. Uh, this is Easter, common holiday. We see it when it's around. We see these little beautiful eggs, these a lot of pastel colors. Easter is, of course, there's different like values and intensities and saturations and chromas, but Easter is the primary color yellow is placed with its secondary complementary color purple. And so a yellow purple color scheme is often used for Easter. And then lastly, because there's three primary colors, we did red, we did yellow, and now we're going to talk about blue. Blue is a primary color whose secondary complementary color is orange. And of course, blue or navy blue or black is a darker blue in value. And this darker blue in value can be perceived as black and is often the opposite and complementary color to a blue or a dark blue is an orange, which is used for Halloween. So if you actually would like to encourage you to next time as you're walking around the earth and you start to see different signs like at gas stations or start looking at the way people advertise, um, you can start to see a lot of complementary colors in the signs and advertisements around you because they're striking and they look good together. And they're called complementary for a reason. They look good together. They complement one another. So the primary hues there are red, yellow, and blue. These are the colors at their basic essence, those colors that cannot be created by mixing others. So we cannot, as painters, create the primary hues. They have to be created by the pigments and bought in stores. Um, they're at the top of any color structure. That's because you can think of the three primaries as original parents of the future generations of colors. So I'm hoping that everyone, let me know if you aren't able to access the gouache. We'll have to figure out how to help you. It's definitely necessary for understanding how colors work. You at least need to get the primary colors and black and white, because we can make every other color off of the primary colors. Any other colors that you have in your gouache set, depending on, like, they can vary from names. Different companies coin their own names for their own colors, and that is just something that you are going to have to use your best set of judgment into. Maybe adding, you can use some of those colors as we work with gouache, but it isn't uh, it isn't necessary. But having the primary red, blue, and yellow is necessary for making this color wheel and all the other color formulas that we study in the class. So secondary colors are the second in line. These secondary hues are green, violet, and orange, created by two primary hues: green, violet, and orange. We can think of secondary colors. I hate how that comes up all the time. We can think of secondary colors as the children of the three primaries, as shown above here, actually. So when we mix, okay, so here's our primaries: red, blue, and yellow. When we mix red and yellow together, well, this, first of all, look how this becomes a nice little triangle. When we mix red and yellow together, that becomes orange. So when we mix yellow and blue together, that becomes green. And we mix blue and red together, that becomes violet. And then lastly, tertiary colors are the in-betweens of the primary and secondary colors. They're created when you combine the primary and second, like mix them together. So the example is yellow-green, for example. And when we're talking about tertiary colors, just as far as vernacular goes, you always talk, when you say a yellow green, when you're describing a yellow green to someone, you're supposed to say the primary hue first. So just, I'm not going to twist anyone's arms into knowing this, but just the appropriate vernacular would be yellow green, yellow orange, red orange, yellow orange. I did that one. And then red, this would be a red purple. This would be a blue violet. Sorry. So this would be these two together make this. Red and violet make this. This would be called a red violet. Blue and violet mixed together create this color that would be called a blue violet. The primary blue mixed with a secondary green would create this color, which would be a blue green. And this green, secondary green mixed with its primary yellow, becomes a yellow green. So don't worry too much about that. Just thought I'd let you know. Also, these colors, these tertiary colors, do have alternative names to them. It varies on, I guess, whoever makes their color wheel, they can decide what color they want to call it. So red, this red violet that exists right here, this is also known as magenta. And we can just call it red violet for now. If you have a magenta in your gouache set, you're welcome to use it, to try to play with it, see if it's a good color match. You can always test your colors on the side on a scrap piece of paper to see what your gouache colors look like as they dry. Because in another video, I'll show you, gouache tends to dry a little bit darker than when you first apply it on paper. So that's something to keep in mind, but we'll get more to that later. A yellow green, such as this color here, also could be known as a chartreuse. What other one can I remember off the top of my head? I think that a red orange tertiary color, this one here, is known as like a viridian. I don't remember all the colors off the top of my head and what they're like actually like what their names are. But you know, a lot of color names are just coined and like commercialized on. It's kind of interesting. Like Crayola has come up with a lot of different names of colors. And that kind of have permeated our culture, such as like periwinkle or a bubblegum pink. But really, a bubblegum pink is just like a bunch of white with a tiny bit of red. It's like more white than it is red. And a periwinkle would be this blue violet color, but with a really higher value of white in it. It'd be a very light blue violet. Okay, so let's just review really quick. Primary yellow, primary red, and primary blue are considered the root of every color. They are colors that can't be created by a mixture. The secondary colors are orange, purple, and green. They're the children of each pair of the primary colors. Tertiary colors are the 6 in-between colors. They are each a mixture of one primary color plus its nearest secondary. They are complex and seductive, but beware. If you are a painter and want clear, harmonious colors when you paint, keep it simple. Work with 3 pure warm primary colors and 3 pure cool primary colors. This is a really good, I just pulled this off of the internet. That's why I don't even really actually know what but beware means. But I like that they mentioned this. If you're new to painting and you're gonna paint beyond this class, you want to working with warm and cool colors is a really great way to start creating a nice harmony in color. We'll go back. Well, warm and cool colors are just divided on, this is the color wheel, divided into one side here. So yellow and red and all the colors in between, these are considered warm colors. I guess that yellow green would be somewhere in the middle of that. And then this green to violet would be considered cool colors. I mean, it's pretty obvious. Like this looks like fire. This looks like water. They're it's obvious by maybe the elements that we understand. And then I would say, yeah, like this is a yellow green is in between a cool and a warm color. It's in the in between. And then this tertiary red violet would also be an in between. It's like a cool violet that has some warmth into it because we added some red. So I think these ones are kind of like don't really exist on any sort of polar opposite level. And so you can paint faster and more spontaneously if you add a secondary pigments to your palette. Disregard that. Orange plus a single pigment purple is a single pigment green. And we're gonna like actually a little bit more of that. We're just gonna stop reading this. So we're gonna work on a color wheel that shows us the primary, secondary, and tertiary and quaternary colors. So we get that, you know, red and yellow make orange. We covered that. Let's talk about the secondary to the tertiary colors. So we're going to start looking at the in-betweens here. So orange and green create this yellowish gray. Green and purple, they create this bluish gray. And an orange and purple create this reddish gray. And we're gonna explore that in our color wheel. So then we're gonna go down to the quaternary colors. This yellowish gray and this reddish gray create this orangish gray. This reddish gray and this bluish gray create this purplish gray. It's a really pretty color. And we have names here, sage, olive, whatever. But we can just call it as we see it. And then this yellowish gray and this bluish gray create this greenish gray. And so don't worry too much about that right now. You're going to learn from experience. Follow up with the demonstration on how to make your color wheel. It's going to be a video that comes up next, and we'll just try to finish these. Okay, great.